No. This is a tribute. Okay, hi. This is Dan with Advent Novus and Drew with Advent Novus. It is a butt crack of dawn on a Saturday. And we are headed up to someplace fun to make our first miniature. Our very first miniature, correctly. Correctly, kind of.
Well, our first metal miniature.
Ah, it's metal. It is metal. That way, when the Earth ends in 2,000 years, when the next people arrive, they'll find it and say, "Wow, these guys are a bunch of idol worshippers,
Pagans, all of you,
heretics,
blasphemy."
So yeah, good times. And we're back. It's still Saturday. It's still early. What are we doing, Drew?
Going back to get some keys.
Yeah.
Because, can't get into things without my keys.
And this is why we can't have nice things, right?
Well, we can. They're just locked behind some doors.
Yeah, that never stopped us before, though. I shouldn't have said that. And now we observe the Andrew in his natural environment.
Disgruntled and cold.
Yep. And we are here again. I really need to get a steady cam on this.
A what?
All right, guys, check it out. This is Adonis Bronze. It is amazing. Look. Art. Look, more art.
We haven't figured out what we do here is make art.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, light.
Here's some of the past projects we've done at Adonis Bronze.
It's like you've done this tour before.
A few times. A lot of those are for Disney. That's the Emmys. The big Emmy Award down in Orlando, Florida.
Cool.
Most of these paintings are done by local artist Dennis Smith. Adonis Bronze has been partnered with him for a large number of years.
All right, welcome to one of the quote-unquote offices of Advent Novus. It's kind of a running joke of ours. Except some of our miniature concepts. The slug, we love the slug. Some of my artwork. Our zombie, he's what we're casting today, isn't it?
Yep, that's the zombie. That's what we're working on today.
Very cool.
Okay, let's move into the production space. Here's our burnout oven. It's currently sitting at just over 1,300 degrees. Overnight we set it to ramp from 700 degrees, which is a holding temperature that also takes all the moisture out of the piece we're making. And we've ramped it up to 1,600 degrees, held it for most of the night, and then brought it back down to a castable temperature. And if you peek in the little hole there, it is definitely glowy red and hot.
Ooh.
So very warm indeed. Here's part of the rest of our setup. We're actually going to work right here for a moment and get some bronze melted so that we can cast this here in about an hour. So this is our little electro melt furnace. This is what we're actually going to melt the bronze in. And so here are some raw pieces of bronze that have been sandblasted clean. We're just going to add a couple in here. Try to make it so that the door will shut on the top. And it'll take an hour or so to melt them down to liquid bronze that is castable.
So now the actual models themselves, they came from the resin 3D printer.
Yep, so we 3D printed a resin. And you've seen those are on our website. So we 3D printed the resin. Then we took one of these little, they call it a flask. It's just a metal tube and a rubber cap on the bottom. Now in this cap, there's a hole for a wax support. So we took little wax rods, bent and attached them to the 3D model, and then you put the metal flask inside that rubber sleeve. From there, you mix up a ceramic material. It's called refractory. It looks kind of like plaster of Paris.
This stuff here?
The white stuff that you see in there.
Gotcha.
So you mix it up. That's actually the leftovers. So you mix it up. You use a vacuum pump to degas it and take all the bubbles out. Then you pour it around your model that's on that wax tree in this flask. Then you degas it again, make sure all those little bubbles are off the surface of your piece. This is actually the process that you use for making jewelry.
Right.
And so from here, we've let that ceramic dry. We take the rubber cap off and you turn it over, and then you burn out the wax and whatever residue from the resin. Now, this is an experimental procedure because we don't know how this resin actually burns. There's a good chance today that this may not turn out.
And why are we doing like copper instead of like a lead toxic, or like a like traditional
pewter
or
or
something
nickel?
like
Largely because this is a bronze foundry and I have bronze.
So it's cheap.
So, well, bronze can run anywhere from $3 to $4 a pound. Here at the foundry, we use a particular art mixture of bronze called Adonis Bronze, and it's actually got silica in it, and the silica makes it pour very smooth and pick up a lot of good detail, and so for an art casting, that's important.
Gotcha.
Also, this particular mixture of bronze colors really nice when you go to finish it and do a patina at the end of the process. So we're going to get our furnace melting, and then we'll take a little break while everything's getting up to temperature.
And we are stressing this is research and development. This isn't anything we're selling. This is just kind of a video log of us being, well, mainly Drew being.
This is what I do, so we're doing some R&D.
Yeah.
Figuring out how to make an actual metal miniature.
So we wanted to show you something else. This is Drew got bored and had some leftover scrap. So
this is more of what I do here at Adonis Bronze. Is I run all of the 3D laser scanning and 5-axis foam machining. So what we do here is actually take small statues and make them bigger. Here's an example of what we can do. This is actually the Daedric armor from Skyrim. Absolutely amazing. So our milling machine, this is the 5-axis milling machine here, the blue machine, and it will automatically change tools, carve out the basic shape, go up, get a smaller tool, come in and refine more details.
that is like
And
life size?
this is life size. Not fat person life size, skinny
Hey.
person life size.
Would you stand next to that, man?
So we have the capability here at Adonis Bronze to do basically whatever you want.
And he's my business partner. Yeah.
I spend a lot of time figuring out how to take artistic whimsy and make it actually work in real life. So, and that's why I'm part of the Avant Novus team.
Okay, look at the detail on this, guys.
Look in between the chains, the actual chains. This is a 2-pound styrofoam that I just painted with some just cheap acrylic paints.
How long did it take you to mill that?
This was milled in 9 separate pieces and totals about 36 hours of machine time and about 3 hours of digital toolpathing time.
Oh, that is just.
And some assembly.
And that's from the actual assets in the game.
Yeah, so the guy that made it in ZBrush for Bethesda got permission to release it as a bust online, and most people are printing it as a 3D miniature that's, you know, 3 inches tall on their little machines. And I said, that's too small, let's make it big and awesome. So I actually needed a high detail model. We had done some major repair work on this machine, and so to stress test it, as it were, I needed something.
Did you turn it?
Something super detailed to make sure it was up to snuff and all my accuracies were back in place.
Jeez. Awesome, man. Thank you.
Walk out here to the balcony and they'll show you the rest of our shop. So our speciality is making bronze artwork and bronze statues. You see several down there that are in process.
That's cool.
So this is what we do here at Adonis Bronze. Size isn't an issue. You want it small, we'll make it small. You want it big, we'll make it big.
Hi guys. These are some examples of the resin miniatures that we've already got done. This is our Archon. Just the cool old guy there. Super detailed. This is our wood dog, a little wood elemental. It's kind of freaky. See all the things on there. Then our golem thingy. So yeah, a little sneak peek. We get to casting. We're just waiting for the oven to heat up a little bit.
Okay, we're going to check the temperature of our liquid bronze and see if it is ready to pour. Come right over here.
All right. Man, you can feel heat from here, dude.
Yes, you
Middle okay?
can. Got some slag up on the top. So we're just going to scrape the top layer off. Now, a lot of that's still good bronze, but we'll just clean it off for good measure. I'm just using a scrap piece of steel. It's got a little bit higher temperature rating, or not rating, resistance than bronze. So from here, we'll get our slag out of the way so it doesn't burn us or hurt us. Do you want to pour some bronze?
I'll let you do it first.
Okay. Your job, there's a switch right here on this vacuum pump.
Okay.
So the vacuum pump is attached. Just switch it when I say, you're fine.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Hands on the gun.
So this hose goes over to this tray right here.
All right.
We're going to set our flask on there, dump our bronze into the flask while the vacuum is running to pull all of that metal into every nook and cranny of this thing.
Cool.
So, let's turn this around. Okay, not yet.
Nope. Woo!
We've got a lot of heat coming out of there. So this is a little bit hotter than we generally run. Our things. Okay, Dan. When I say, okay, go ahead and turn it off. Okay, leave it on. I should have done before we started. Because our flask is a lot hotter than I normally do it, it's going to take a little more time for it to cool.
Gotcha.
I'm going to leave the pump on and just let that gold globe go down. You're actually going to turn our melt furnace off so that that extra bronze in there will cool. We'll leave the pump on for just a minute. I'm going to fill up a bucket of water.
Cool. That's awesome. Now.
Okay, so here's our still glowing red hot.
Woo!
I mean, it's hot. Casting, bucket of cool water. Zoom right in on this. We're going to
That is so.
boil the refractory off from around the piece.
That is cool.
Now it is still really hot. Let's see what turned out.
There's a miniature.
Well, looks like a guy.
It looks like a guy. It looks like it turned out well. And again, this is just
the first try, ladies and gentlemen. Part of an arm there. Looks like we had a little bit of cracking and flashing around the edge of it.
so we can clean that up in post. So we got our first miniature, man. That is our first miniature.
So from here, we'll walk downstairs and we'll do a little bit of a light sandblast on it, clean off that ceramic, and see what we ended up with. Here we are in the sandblasting cabinet. There's Dan over there. So we're actually going to spray some abrasive sand and clean off some of this extra material.
All right, this is how he turned out. This is the little loincloth in his profile. We have all his fingers, arms, and everything out. You can see the shape of his boots. He's kind of scraggly and burnt a little, but I'll let Drew kind of explain what worked and what didn't with this. Again, this is our first try and prototype. I'm going to pull out here. So we come out. Okay, man.
So, the entire point of what we were doing today was not necessarily to actually cast and produce a miniature. We actually didn't even know what the 3D printed resins would do when we burned them. And so what we've learned today is there's actually a surprisingly large amount of ash left behind when you burn these resins down.
Ash being the stuff like left
Ash
after.
being, let's walk over here and let's show you ash.
I think it's the most beautiful thing on earth. That's just me.
So our kiln's still a little warm, but we'll have Dan zoom in right here. You'll notice there are two little brown fuzzy piles in there on this brick.
That is hot.
That is hot. We actually left some models just in the kiln by themselves to see what would happen.
And that's all the burned out
That is the
chemicals
ash,
and stuff?
That is the remains of all the components in these resins that did not burn.
So when we put the copper, when you flipped it over and put the copper into that little mold, this guy here, this mold here,
Yep, this little flask,
there was all that fuzziness
there
in
was
there.
all that fuzziness still inside the flask. And so that leads to the pock marks and rough surface that you see on the model. So we may have to do something different in our process. The entire point of this was to decide what our process ought to be. And so the solution, possible solution to this is after firing a flask, you let it cool back down and we rinse it out with water. Now, depending on the refractory, the ceramic material in your flask, that may or may not be compatible with your process. That may not be compatible with our process. I'll have to do a little reading and maybe make a few phone calls. So what did we learn today? Yes, you can burn your 3D printed Anycubic photon resin. Does it burn well? Yeah, it burned okay. But it has a very, very high ash content, and so in our following tests, we'll have to compensate for that somehow.
But it's my first bronze. I'm so happy.